Hello ratbags, it's Jade. Welcome to the Grounded Impressions / review. It's been out a week now, so I want to give you guys my opinion on the game. I'm obviously loving it. It's been doing amazing on the channel, and I am just really enjoying an experience, a survival experience made by an actual well-developed team, and it seems to have so many of the issues and problems with survival games that I have pretty much ironed out, or I can see the potential in it. Don't get me wrong though, there are some issues with Grounded, particularly on the length and the type of content you're going to find in it right now, but definitely as a promise of what's to come, Grounded is going to be exceptional, and I can see this being one of the biggest survival games going. So join me as I talk about why I like Grounded, what I don't like about it, and pretty much if you agree or disagree, it doesn't matter. Just help me like the video and leave them comments in the comment section and tell me what you think about the game. Let's go, it's the Grounded Impressions review. So straight off, it's an early access game. You and 3 of your friends can co-op in a hosted world just like it is in Minecraft. There's no servers, there's no dedicated PvP or any of that nonsense. This is not a hardcore game. It's aimed at a younger audience and maybe some nostalgic adults looking at that Honey, I Shrunk the Kids vibe. And that's where we end up being, in the backyard, shrunken down, no more bigger than an ant, as you survive gathering food, water and defending yourself against spiders and all sorts of other bugs. Made by Obsidian, of course, the makers of Fallout New Vegas and Outer Worlds. This is actually a small, tiny little development team consisting only of 12 people. They've worked on it for about 18 months and they reckon there might be in early access for another year. They're promising story content which is much lacking in a lot of modern survival games, but what they've done at the start of their early access life is really impressive. So let's talk about the options and how you can play it. One, what I really like is that you can straight off the bat go into creative mode. You can choose the difficulty up to 3 different types. If you want a bit more of a hardcore experience, you can have that. But let's not get confused. This isn't going to be something like Ark Survival Evolved or Conan Exiles. This is strictly a feel-good game playing with your friends. It does have some tense moments and you will be crying your eyes out when the ants actually come and attack your base looking for food, especially as they seem to be pretty OP at the moment and there isn't as many defense items in the game just yet. Imagine all the best elements from some of your favourite survival games. Take the creatures and the diversity of animals from Ark. Take the blueprint and building system from the forest. Take a bit of lore and story and location that you might find in something like Conan Exiles. And then take the horde element that you get from 7 Days to Die and put that all in a melting pot, and you kind of might get there as long as you add a big dollop of that Honey, I Shrunk the Kids vibe. And that's what Grounded really is. Running around the backyard, surviving in the 3 biomes that are currently there is a bit of a challenge on the hard difficulties. And even without that, you will get wrecked by the first few spiders you ever come across. Not until you get some decent armor weapons, like every survival game out there, will you really stand a chance against some of the harder creatures. Now currently the developers have said that the 3 biomes are pretty much developed, they're there for the start obviously, but I would argue that only one has been really fully fleshed out. The grasslands offers that template where you've got bugs running around, going about their daily business with their own ecosystem while you try and get your own food and water and set up your own base. Next up then you've got the haze area, which is a toxic gas filled weed killer biome which will be explored a little bit later on in the game when you get some masks. And of course you make the masks from some bug parts, and this is what I really love. You're going to be finding lots of uses. Instead of the pretty generic just get meat from hacking away at a creature like Ark or Conan, you'll actually get some use out of the different parts from the bugs, and I really hope they keep going on with this. Certain weapons you need ant parts, certain pieces of armor you're going to need certain pieces from stink bugs. All in all it means you're going to have a different experience each time trying to get the right materials instead of this just generic hides that you might get in other games. There's no taming in the game at the moment, but the developers have said they haven't ruled it out. I think this is probably going to be the first negative, but also a positive. Negative because if it did have taming, I think we'd see this game explode even more. I don't want it to be an Ark clone, but absolutely if there is a way they can add some of these creatures to be tameable or have them as a pet, I think it would absolutely explode even more. There's no denying that Ark kickstarted the survival genre once more. It got on a bit stagnant even though DayZ and Rust were still only a year or 2 years old at that point. Their problems and issues in early access and so many other games trying to copy and emulate them, it meant that the survival genre was exploding but it was Ark that took it to the mainstream. 18 million people have bought or played Ark Survival Evolved across PC, Xbox and PS4, not to mention the Switch and the mobile versions. It was one of the biggest driving factors in survival being so popular when it launched in 2015, and it took nearly 4 weeks to get 1 million players. Grounded has hit 1 million players, albeit with the help of the Games Pass, in the matter of 2 days. Just to put in context how big this game could be. Obviously it's not on the PlayStation 4 and that is going to be a big issue. It's such a shame that other players aren't going to be able to experience it. I really hope that maybe something like the Outer Worlds happens, which was put onto the PlayStation 4 as well. And they do come up with some deal that they will allow it on other platforms. But the likelihood of that is probably zilch. Anywho, the taming aspect, as I said, if they can add something like that in the future, I think that would be pretty decent. What we don't want though is spending hours and hours of real time taming creatures. It's one of the biggest drawbacks in Ark Survival Evolved that some people find really rewarding, but I just find personally I want to stab myself with my spear. I like games that you can explore and run around. I don't want to be sitting babysitting a sleeping dinosaur. Anywho, we're getting a bit too far. It doesn't have that at the moment, Grounded. What it does have though is an ecosystem of ants that go about their business, gathering food, bringing it back to their anthill, and they'll actually lay eggs. You can steal these eggs and make bombs with them in the future, and supposedly if you cause too much damage or carnage to certain creatures, it'll have a knock-on effect. And that might mean other bugs and creatures won't spawn as much. Or you may get an overspawning of other creatures because the predators aren't there. This is what the developers are kind of promising for the future to be in the system a bit more. But right now, Grounded is lacking that real deep meta. It's fun exploring, it's fun taking on the first few creatures, but after that it will wear thin for a lot of people, and there's already a lot of complaints about the lack of content. For sure, this is like every sandbox survival game. You kind of have to make your own fun, and I do think they probably did launch it with just a smidgen less than I would have expected. They've got some story elements into it, but literally you can run out of that within about 20 minutes. And after that, it's about finding collectibles and going to new locations and finding little Easter eggs. Of course, you'll spend a lot of time gathering resources, and just like every other survival game, that will be a bit of a grind. You carry the planks in your hands just like you do in the forest, so you can't have 2 million pieces of wood in your inventory. And so building big, huge palaces, massive castles and forts will take a bit of extra time. And that's not a bad thing. You're a survival fan, right? That's what you love, a bit of the grind. Now, where does the challenge come? It's the bugs and the creatures and what they're going to do, or what I'm hoping they're going to do in the future. Right now, the ants are the ones that will come and attack your base the most. Alongside that, you've got some larvae creatures. They'll aim for the food that's in storage chests, and they'll rack anything that's in that way. We've only got a limited amount of defense items right now, but already by going through the file using some cheats and hacks, I've discovered a bunch of different defense items that will be coming in the future. If they explore this even more and expand it, I could see this being a real great meta. Defending your bases periodically from bugs and creatures really will add something a bit more exciting to this game. Of course, it's about choice though. Some players may not want that, so I hope they have some option where they can dial it down just a little bit. There's definitely going to be a lot of kids out there upset that their base has been destroyed by hungry ants. But for the harder core, or maybe just a little bit more mature challenged gamer, I think people will be expecting some sort of harder mode or some sort of base defense to be expanded even more. Now, I compared the game a lot to the forest because, as I said, you carry your items around with you just like you do in that game, but you do have your inventory where you can carry much smaller items. And just like the forest, there are some scary moments. A wolf spider attacking you in the dark is one of the scariest things going, and the horrific sounds they make really put me on edge. I don't have arachnophobia, but damn it, playing this game after 20 minutes you may well do. Now, the Obsidian have given you the option to change that so you can turn it on and off, and it pretty much reduces the spiders to little dough balls. Again, it's all great. They've added some real good customized options here. People that just want to do a bit creative, although I do think they need to turn the enemies on in creative, as it's kind of useless just being able to build and explore. I'd still want the actual creatures to be running around just to get a taste and test how my defences might stand. So again, I hope that's something they add in the future. Early access can be dodgy. We all know there's lots of games that have failed, or maybe not lived up to the expectations they set out during their plans. Obsidian have been a little bit coy with certain stuff, but they have outlined how they want to make lots more story content and how certain parts you will need to go through the story to really progress and unlock more items. This is where we come into another bit of an issue. So right now you need a chip that will unlock better base parts, and these are more reinforced items, palisade gates and stuff. Now this chip isn't found in a major part of the story that you'll kind of follow as you get through it. is actually just put in an anthill in the middle of nowhere. Now these science chips unlock the blueprints, and before you can even get them, you have to go and collect science points. They're littered all over the map, these purple little splodges, and the idea being that you actually exchange them for the items so that you can craft them. This is good, but not good. There is something to be said for blueprint systems in like Ark or Conan, where as you level up, you can choose what items you want. It does mean that sometimes you haven't got enough points to buy stuff, but equally running around looking for these science points can get a bit tedious, and they don't seem to regenerate. There's also been massive issues with the launch of them, some players saying they can't find any at all. So some players are literally stuck at the moment until the first update, not being able to go and experience and mess around with a lot of the items. If they're going to carry on with this idea that these chips are going to be how you can upgrade and unlock more items, I want them to really be a bit more focused and structured. These chips will always be found in story beats. And that way, yes, it will be gated off by the story, but it all just depends on how quickly you want to get through that story or focus on that particular item. I don't like the idea of real major pieces like base defenses being put in just some random location. Other than that, that's pretty much my only gripe with the actual gameplay. As I said, the meta does need to be a bit more involved in terms of something like taming or pets. It doesn't have to be full taming. I don't think I want to be riding around on spiders, but it'd be pretty cool to at least have maybe an ant or a gnat as a pet. There's scope and potential here to go in a million ways, adding really unique biomes to it, adding outlandish stuff with maybe an alien feel. Where have we seen that before? Ark Survival Evolved. And I do hope that they can maybe expand upon the game as well and add the ability to host more than just 4 players. One benefit to keeping it at 4 players is there is no tether, there's no bubble. So when players join on you, you can all go and explore the world and do what you want, and you won't have to be teleported back to the host. Now, a lot of hardcore survival fans are expecting big servers like Ark and Conan, and I kind of think that would ruin the game. Not every game has to be a PvP slugfest. And obviously the way they've developed this game, aiming it a little bit more at the younger audience, it's never going to have that kind of element to it. But overall, it's fun, it's really atmospheric. The fog comes down at night time, it's scary running around. If you run out of a torch inside an anthill, you are going to be crapping it. There's lots of work to be done on the biomes that are still there, and obviously there's scope for improving and adding all sorts as well. For sure, I do believe they really could have maybe added a bit more content to the other 2 biomes, but we're being promised monthly updates every single month. I'm hoping the next big drop will have that kind of content in it. Buy this game if you're looking for just a good co-op experience with your friends or your buddies. Don't buy this game if you're some hardcore sweaty PvPer. Not yet anyway. I'm not to say they can't have fun. I think definitely for some people, particularly on Steam, paying €30 or $30 for this game right now, you will run out of content pretty quickly. You may not have the patience to wait for more content to be added in. And without that meta of taming, it will get a bit dry a little bit quickly. But for Xbox fans, particularly Games Pass owners, you're going to be dropping in and out of this every single month with every single update. It's almost the perfect system for that way of selling the game. The music's good, it's atmospheric, different vibes when you go into different places. I love the art style, I think it's cool. It's got the 90s aesthetic to it, and I really hope we start seeing some plans about customization, maybe finding different outfits for our characters and not just armor sets. When it boils down to what the items you can craft and make, they're super cool. Making armor kits out of ant heads, bee fur armor and stuff like that is really, really cool. Again, I hope they expand on that. I think we're going to see slingshots made out of all sorts of bugs. I hope they really add more items made out of the insects. It's really cool when you get stuff like this. And for sure, I would like to see maybe like a compodium or something like in Ark where you kill a creature or you find an explorer note for it and it gives you a bit more detail about it. There will be huge comparisons to a lot of them games I mentioned. And as I said, it's because they do it, they've taken inspiration, but they've kind of done it a little bit better. Sure, it's lacking in some areas. The building's pretty basic, although it's a nice, simple system at the moment. I love the blueprint system, and again, that's borrowed heavily from the forest. You can plan and place your building whatever you want, and then you just simply have to go and get the shopping list. It will tell you exactly how many pieces of whatever it is you need. All in all, it's a no-brainer. You should be buying this game if you're a console survival fan. You like hanging out with your friends, and I think you guys are going to benefit the most, as I said, from these updates that come out if you're on the Games Pass. For everyone else, I would still buy it. I think the promise is there. It's a good company. It's in one of the biggest companies in the world. I don't think there's any worries they're not going to deliver on the kind of content. What they need to do now, the developers, is keep us posted on what's coming, get more vocal on Twitter and social media and talk about the stuff that's happening, And I really hope that Obsidian actually pump a little bit more resources into the game. We don't want it to get over flooded and overdone. The 12 people have crafted something pretty special here, but it would be nice if they got a bit more support, particularly with lots of bug fixes and optimizations. There have been some pretty serious issues that they've launched with, namely not being able to find science points, so you pretty much can't guarantee that you're going to be able to unlock certain things, as well as a bunch of different stuff with pieces not appearing properly or save files being corrupted. This kind of stuff does happen in early access, but I would expect you'd be able to play the game and maybe play it for a considerable amount of time before it crashed. So yeah, I'm all aboard the Grounded hype train. It's messed up my plans for this month completely. I had so much more other content I was going to try and do, but the fact is I'm enjoying this game. I've been playing it with my kids, been playing it with my subscribers, and it's just so nice to have a game that kind of has so many good feels about it. The Forest is my hands down survival favourite game. Ark is the one I've covered and played the most out of all of them. And so Grounded represents the best of some of them games. And I'm hoping the future is going to be even better. Let me know what you think about Grounded. As ever, I'll be back for more survival games news and info. And hopefully I'll see you for the next Grounded video. Until then, laters.